Hey everyone, hope you're doing well tonight. Thanks for being here. Let's settle in, because the first story starts in a place that's supposed to feel safe. Hospitals are meant to comfort us. Bright lights, clean halls, machines keeping quiet watch. But at night, that safety fades fast. There's a silence that doesn't heal, it listens. And once you hear what breaks it, you don't forget. So tonight, we're going past visiting hours, and some doors don't stay closed for long. Let's start this story shared by one of our listeners. I've been working night shifts for over 10 years. If you've ever worked in a hospital after midnight, you know the air changes. The halls get too still, too clean, like the whole building is holding its breath. Machines hum softly in every room. The vending machine clanks once every hour. And sometimes, in that silence, you swear the building itself listens. I'm Emily Carter, registered nurse, St. Helena Regional Hospital, small trauma center in rural Ohio. We get all kinds: small car wrecks, farm injuries, elderly falls, psychiatric transfers. But at night, we get something worse than emergencies. We get silence. That night was like any other. 3 patients in recovery, 1 in observation, and an elderly man in room 314 who kept pressing his call button, swearing he heard people walking in the closed wing. We laughed it off. Old hospitals creak, we said. Then, at 2:03 a.m., 1 call light turned on. Only this one wasn't supposed to exist. It came from Ward C, the old section sealed off after the generator fire 5 years ago. Ward C had been locked since that fire. Half the ceiling caved in, pipes melted, wiring burnt. The insurance company never paid out, so they just sealed it, chained the doors, and left it there. So when I saw that red call light flicker above the sealed door, I thought it was a glitch. I radioed security. They said, "Ward C, no one's got access. That line's dead." I said, "Well, it's lit right now." The light stayed on for about 20 seconds, then faded, and the hallway filled with a faint smell. Old antiseptic, not the kind we use now, the kind hospitals stopped ordering years ago. I told myself it was nothing, just electricity bleeding through the old panel. But that smell, that chemical sweetness, stayed in the back of my throat all night. The next night, I mentioned it to Luis, the maintenance guy. He laughed, but it didn't sound real. He said, "You don't go near Ward C, nurse. We keep that chained for a reason." When I asked what reason, he hesitated, then said quietly, "Some patients still talk about hearing rounds coming from that hall. Even the dead side vents still whistle sometimes." I thought he was joking, until that same night, around 3:12 a.m., I heard it. A faint rattle, like cartwheels rolling on tile. But the sound came from behind that chained fire door. I called out, "Luis?" Silence. Then, from behind the door, someone whispered my name. "Emily." The next morning, I pulled up the call log. 2 activity entries, 2:03 a.m. and 3:12 a.m. Location, Ward C, room 3C. But that room was demolished years ago. I showed it to Dr. Warren, our attending physician. He frowned and said, "That line shouldn't even have power." He promised to get maintenance to look into it. That night, I set up my phone down the hall. I aimed it at the Ward C door, hit record, and went back to charting. At exactly 2:59 a.m., my motion alert pinged. I opened the feed. The hallway was empty. Then the chain moved, just a small tug, and behind the reinforced glass, I saw something white, a pale shape, like a hand pressed flat against the window. The next morning, I went into record storage. Boxes stacked high, dust thick in the air. Most of Ward C's logs had been shredded, but one binder labeled "Disaster Recovery, Generator Fire" was still there. 5 patient names, all listed as "pending transfer," all later crossed out, "deceased, bodies not retrieved." At the bottom of the list, a handwritten note, "Do not reassign Ward C rooms. They answer to their own roll call." I almost laughed. Old superstition, maybe. But there was one more note beneath it. barely visible, written in pencil. It said, "Carter, cleared for observation." I stared at it for a long time. No one in the hospital's history had that last name before me. 3 nights later, 3:14 a.m., the overhead intercom beeped once. Then the robotic voice said, "Code Blue, Ward C." Everyone froze. Dr. Warren stared at me. He said, "That wing doesn't even have power." Serious. We ran to the hall. The chain on the Ward C door was unhooked, hanging loose. I pushed it open. The air inside was freezing cold. Rows of empty beds lined the walls, sheets tucked perfectly, dust undisturbed, except for one set of footprints. Mine. Uneasy. At the nurse's station, a single clipboard sat upright. Name on the chart, patient Carter E. Status, observation. Then all the monitors blinked on. Heart rate, oxygen, pulse. Every screen showed my vitals. Exactly. And then, the intercom crackled again. "Back to bed, Nurse Carter." I woke up sitting by the Ward C door. They said security found me at 3:18 a.m., holding my own badge in my hand. The cameras for that hallway glitched out, blank between 3 and 3:15. The hospital sealed Ward C again, welded it this time. A few weeks later, Dr. Warren emailed me a photo of the access logs. One new entry, 3:14 a.m. Badge access, Carter E. Ward C. Status, admitted. I left St. Helena after that. Took a job 2 states over, switched to day shifts. But every few nights, I wake up around 3:14. My phone vibrates once, no caller ID. And sometimes, I hear that hospital hum again. That soft, mechanical breathing in the walls, like it's still waiting for me to check in. Last week, a letter came in the mail. No return address. Inside was a patient chart. My name typed neatly on the top. Carter Emily. The admission date was blank, but the discharge date was tomorrow. Some places look harmless in daylight, even beautiful. But when the sun drops and the world goes quiet, you start to realize how far you've wandered from where you meant to be. They say nature doesn't hide anything. I don't think that's true. Sometimes, it just waits for you to notice. So, before you lace up your boots or take that next turn off the trail, listen carefully. This story starts with a path that wasn't supposed to exist. So, let's move on to this second horrific tale shared by a hiker. I drove into the mountains just after sunrise. 2-lane roads, radio fading in and out, fog hanging over the trees like low smoke. I've done a lot of solo hikes. I plan well, stick to the basics, don't do anything careless. This trip was supposed to be quiet. 3 days, a small loop, then back to work on Monday. I parked at a gravel pull-off with a wooden post and a rusted trail box. The map inside was sun-bleached. Someone had drawn a red loop by hand. Ridgeway Spur. It wasn't on all trails or the Forest Service site, but a couple of old forum posts mentioned it as a local's loop, short and scenic. I signed the paper log with my name and time. I wrote solo and back Sunday. The first mile was easy, pine needles underfoot, cool air, the kind of silence you get in the woods that isn't empty, just unbothered. Then the trail narrowed. The blazes changed from plastic markers to old carved squares. The carved ones were darker, like they'd been there a long time. At mile 3, I hit a fork. Left looked overgrown, right looked used. My map said stay left, but it looked like nobody had been left in a while. I stood there longer than I should have. Then I went right. The grade tilted downhill. The air cooled a few degrees. No birds, no wind, just my steps. I told myself it was fine. Trails connect, they always do. Still, I checked my compass. North. The path curved west. I let it. I shouldn't have. By late afternoon, I hadn't seen a single hiker. No wrappers, no boot prints. just old dirt and roots like ribs across the ground. I kept going because turning around felt like admitting I'd messed up on something simple. I set up camp in a small clearing beside a trickle of water. It looked like a creek bed, but the water barely moved. It smelled like iron. I boiled it twice, added tabs, and used it for pasta. I hung my food, logged my GPS coordinates like I always do, and watched the sky turn from orange to a flat gray. Around 9:30, I heard footsteps come down the trail. Slow, even. Not an animal, not deer, heavier. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. The steps stopped right behind my tent. I waited. Nothing. No breathing, no zipper sound, just quiet. When I finally unzipped the flap, my headlamp lit trees and empty space. But there were fresh prints in the dirt. Same tread as mine, same size, heel deeper than the toe. I stood there a long time with my light on the ground and told myself I must have stepped there earlier, even though I knew I hadn't. Morning felt normal again until I checked my GPS. The map screen was gray, the blue dot gone. I restarted it twice. It wouldn't pick up. The compass showed north, but the trail kept bending west. I decided to backtrack anyway. I took it slow, watching for my own prints. After 3 hours, I came back to the same clearing, same fire ring, same 2 stones I'd moved to level my tent. My cookpot was right where I left it to dry, a ring of wet dirt beneath it. I hadn't made a loop. The trail had. At noon, a whistle came from uphill. 3 short notes. It sounded like someone trying to get attention, the way you might call a dog. I called out, "Are you lost?" Silence. Then the same 3 notes again, closer. 30 yards away, a man stood just inside the tree line. Tan jacket, old boots, red backpack. He didn't wave. He didn't move. He didn't act like he saw me. I blinked, and he was gone. No branches moved, no brush sound, just me and the trail that didn't go anywhere. By late afternoon, the temperature dropped fast. I saw smoke through the trees. I headed toward it, hoping for a ranger outpost. It was a cabin, weathered wood, no door, windows dark, a stovepipe with a little line of heat shimmer above it. Except inside was cold, no fire, no warm ash. The smoke didn't make sense. On the wall, a message cut with a knife. Ridgeway Loop closed since 1998. Missing. 3 hikers. Underneath, someone had added, "Don't follow the red pack." From outside, the whistle again. 3 notes. Same rhythm. I left the cabin at a fast walk and didn't look back. I told myself I'd find the original fork. I told myself I'd go left this time, like the map said. At 2:51, but the trail didn't give me choices anymore. Accelerometers it just kept going downhill. The trail widened, and the ground got packed, like 100 feet had loaded. I felt better until I realized none of those feet wore boots. The prints were the youngest laborer, small Kenta. Some were side by side, like someone had stood and waited for a long time. The bench slumped, not even 8 inches. I stepped around them. Enough. I saw the man again. He slid in without a sound. Same jacket, no same red backpack. He was ahead of me on the trail, moving slow. I called. When the light came, "Hey, the void can you stop?" Smooth. He didn't. Shot Creek. He didn't look back. They never sprayed. I picked up my pace, but the distance between us didn't change. Nobody did. It felt like a treadmill. The closer I walked, the same space stayed. Review. I jogged until my chest hurt. The event. I got within a few steps. Due to gas I could see the stitching on his pack. Mud. The foreman built a small wooden gate. He stepped off the trail into the brush. I followed him 2 steps. Set a little saucer of sake and a rice ball in front. Not running. The priest gone like he'd never been there. When I turned back to the paper, my own prints were fresh and dark, on the like I just made the opening. I made camp where the ground was flat. Colder. I ate a protein bar and drank the last of my boiled water. At night, the woods felt close. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It pressed in. I set my phone to record audio and put it in the tent pocket. I told myself I'd hear coyotes or owls and feel stupid in the morning. Around 10, the whistle again. 3 notes. Then a 4th note that didn't fit. Farther away, then closer, like 2 people answering each other. At 11, soft steps came by my tent and didn't pause. At 12, they came again and did pause. Whoever it was stood there long enough for my legs to numb from staying still. At 1:15, I heard my own zipper sound. Not mine moving, mine repeating. The same little snag on the same tooth. I held my breath and counted to 30. When I finally sat up, the tent was closed, and the woods were quiet, and the recording light on my phone was off. I hadn't turned it off. The file name read 1:13 a.m., duration 00. In the morning, I found a line of small stones across the trail. Not a cairn, a line. Each stone was roughly the same size. In the center of the line, a little stack of 3. It looked like a marker and a message. I stepped over it and kept moving. I didn't want to know what the message was. By afternoon, I saw an old logging road. Ruts. A broken fence. Wrapped around a post was a red strap, like the kind you use to cinch a backpack. I picked it up. The fabric was stiff and gritty. When I dropped it, it curled into the shape of a hand. The road led me to another clearing and another cabin. This one had a door. It was open. Inside, a map nailed to the wall. The trails were hand-drawn, lots of little loops, stacked like rings of a tree. In the lower corner, Ridgeway was written in faded red, and next to it, 𝐓𝐡𝐞. Date, 1998. Under the map, 4 names were carved. 𝐓𝐡𝐞, L, McKay, S, Doyle, and one last initial, just E. The rest of the board was splintered, like someone had tried to cut the whole name and change their mind. I followed the logging road downhill. The ruts matched my stride like steps. I walked for hours and never hit the county road the topo map promised. The sun dropped behind the ridge. The temperature sank with it. My headlamp picked up small things in the ditch: old bootlace, bottle cap, a snapped whistle half buried in leaves. The man with the red backpack stood in the road ahead of me. Closer now, 10 yards. I could see his ear, the bend of his elbow. I said, "Sir?" He didn't turn. He lifted his hand a few inches and pointed at the ditch. I looked down. In the mud, my driver's side floor mat lay face up, dirty and wet. I didn't bring it. I didn't take it out of my car, but it was there. When I looked up, he was gone. I didn't touch the mat. I walked around it and kept going until my legs shook. I slept without a tent, sitting up against a tree with my pack on. At some point, something brushed my shoulder, like a person trying to get by in a crowded aisle. I found the road just after noon. Real road, yellow line, mailboxes, a farmhouse with a flag. I walked to my car at the gravel pull-off. The log sheet on the post was damp. My name was gone. A single entry was there, written in pencil that smeared under my thumb. R. Hensley, Ridgeway Spur, 1998. Inside my car, the driver's side floor mat was missing. The carpet underneath was wet, not soaked, just damp like someone had stood there in boots. I told myself the mat fell out when I left. I told myself I'd dropped it and didn't well. Inside my car, the driver's side floor mat was missing. The carpet underneath was wet, not soaked, just damp, like someone had stood there in boots. I told myself the mat fell out when I left. I told myself I'd dropped it and didn't notice. I started the engine and drove to town without the radio on. At home, a week later, I woke up at 3:13 a.m. to 3 short notes of a whistle from the hall. I sat up and listened. Nothing. I told myself it was the heater. 2 nights after that, I heard the whistle again, 3 notes, then a 4th that didn't belong. I checked my front door camera the next morning. At 1:13 a.m., a figure stood at the end of my walk, tan jacket, red backpack. The image warped right where his face should be, like heat over asphalt. He didn't come closer. He didn't leave footprints on the porch, but there were small stones on my welcome mat in a straight line, with 3 stacked in the middle. I changed my locks. I put a chair under the knob like that would matter. At 3:13 a.m. the next night, my phone vibrated with a motion alert from the living room camera. My tent lay open on the floor where I'd been airing it out after the trip. The zipper moved an inch on its own, snagging on the same tooth it always snags on. The video audio picked up 3 short notes that didn't echo. Sometimes I wake to the sound of boots on carpet that don't mark the pile. Sometimes the hallway goes very quiet like the woods did, and sometimes a damp iron smell sits at the doorway to my bedroom and waits until I notice it. I don't hike alone anymore. I don't hike at all. But when I pass a trailhead, I still see a hand-drawn red loop on a sun-bleached map and feel like it's mine. And when the house is very still and the night has the weight of trees, I hear a whistle. 3 short notes, then another, closer. And I know the trail I took home doesn't end at my door. It just keeps walking beside me. It's strange how some stories just stay with you. The kind that make you double-check the locks or leave one light on when you swear you don't need to. The next one I'm about to tell you, it isn't about ghosts exactly. It's about something quieter, something that can live beside you for weeks before you ever realize it's there. So, sit back. Maybe turn a light on, because this one starts with an apartment key, and someone who was never supposed to have one. So let's hear this very unsettling experience of a college student. She mailed me about 2 weeks ago. I moved into a small, off-campus apartment in early September. It was a 2-bed, 2nd floor, 10 minutes from campus. Old carpet, thin walls, a balcony that looked at a parking lot. My classes were stacked morning to afternoon, nothing heavy at night. I wanted quiet and simple. The listing said, roommate already placed. I figured another junior who wanted to split rent. I signed the lease, paid the deposit, and picked up 1 key from the lockbox. There was a 2nd key on the hook labeled S. When I opened the door, there were 2 things on the kitchen counter. A mug with Sarah written in nail polish, and a single sticky note. Hi, I work evenings. I'm quiet. I don't bring people over. S. I met her 3 nights later at 11:40 p.m. I was making tea. She came in like she already lived there. Soft footsteps, tote bag, light sweatshirt, hair tied back. She said, "Hey, I'm Sarah," like we'd already done this. She was friendly but economical with words. No oversharing, no weird vibes. We talked about trash day, laundry, splitting utilities. She said she worked campus events and sometimes closed late. She didn't say which building. I didn't push. We were both careful. It felt normal. 2 details stuck. She wore a campus lanyard, but the ID card had no photo. And she knocked once before entering the apartment, even with a key. After 2 weeks, I noticed the little gaps. Her bedroom door was always closed, but the light under it never showed. The bathroom mirror would fog on both sides, even if only I showered. Groceries I bought, milk, eggs, were used, but the containers sat back in the exact same spot and angle I left them. We had real conversations about rent, about my lab, about her event shifts. But if I asked what department she worked for, she'd say, student life, and redirect. How's your stats class? Clean deflection, friendly, practiced. One night I said, "Hey, do you want to swap numbers in case I lock myself out?" She smiled like that was obvious and said, "Sure." She read her number. I texted her a smiley. Her phone never buzzed. She held up her hand with a small laugh. Vibrate only. Financial aid needed a roommate verification form for my grant. I wrote SARAH plus last initial from the mailbox tag. The campus system asked for her student ID. I typed the number from her lanyard. The form flagged red. Student not found. I tried the housing portal. No record of a Sarah at my address. I tried the registrar's directory. Nothing. I told myself some students go by their middle name. I told myself sometimes databases lag. I let it go for a week. At the leasing office, I asked casually, "Could I get a copy of the co-residence ID for the utility company?" The manager scrolled the screen, frowned, then smiled quickly. "We have you as sole occupant." I said, "No, my roommate, Sarah." He tapped keys, checked a folder, then said, "If someone is staying there, they aren't on our lease." Mid-October, we watched half an episode of some dumb show. She laughed at the right parts, then said she had to cover a door shift until late. She rinsed her mug, turned it upside down on the rack, and left. One knock, door closed. That was the last normal moment. At 2:17 a.m., a single knock at the apartment door. I checked the peephole. Empty hallway. I opened the door. No one. The knob felt cold like it had been outside in winter. I texted, "You okay?" No reply. 10 minutes later, one knock again. Peephole, empty. Door, cold. At 3:02 a.m., I heard the bedroom door across the hall open. I called her name. No answer. I checked. The room was empty. No bed frame, no dresser, no clothes. The closet had one hanger. The window was latched shut from the inside. The carpet had a rectangle of clean space where a rug might have been, and my footprints around it. I filed a welfare check with campus security. They took my statement, wrote her name down twice, and asked for a photo. I didn't have one. I searched my phone. We'd texted. The thread title said, "Sarah," but every message showed only my bubbles. Her replies were blank space, timestamps without content. Security called me 2 days later. We checked events, student employment, housing. No Sarah on record. I said, "Then who had the key?" The officer said, "Only you picked up a key." I said, "There was a second on the hook." He asked me to bring both. I brought mine. The hook was empty. That night I noticed a small thing. Her mug was still on the rack, upside down. When I lifted it, the counter underneath was damp. The damp circle came back the next morning, like something set it down wet again, after I'd dried it. I started asking around. The RA in my old dorm said, "Are you pranking me? That room sat empty last year." Across the street, the neighbor with the pit bull said, "Thought you lived alone. You talk to yourself a lot, but hey, no judgment." The mail carrier shrugged. "Only ever had one name on the box." I went through bank statements. Rent, paid by me. Utilities, by me. Groceries, my card. The Wi-Fi had one device besides my phone and laptop. It was labeled S's AirPods. The Bluetooth showed them in range even when my phone was at work. Every time I hit forget device, they reappeared, name unchanged. I typed her name into Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, nothing. When I searched the local missing persons page, a face looked like her for a second, a similar jawline, similar eyes, but the dates were wrong. 2016, different city, and the caption under it, "Found, deceased." I installed a cheap camera in the living room aimed at the front door and hallway. Motion notifications pinged 3 nights in a row at 2 a.m. I watched the clips. The door didn't open, didn't move, but the hallway light switched itself on, then off, then on again with a 1-2-3 rhythm, just like her knocks. I set a camera in the empty bedroom. At 2:17 a.m., the camera recorded for 6 seconds. Static. A gray smear like breath on glass. When the image cleared, the closet doors were open. I rewound. They had been closed. I fast-forwarded. A shape blocked the window for less than a frame. It looked like a person standing on the balcony. We were on the 2nd floor. The next day I changed the lock. That night, 1 knock, 2, 3. I looked through the peephole and saw a human outline at the end of the hall. Not at the door, at the far end, turned toward the exit sign. It lifted a hand like checking the time. When I opened the door, no one was there. The exit sign flickered twice and steadied. I told the leasing office I needed to break the lease. They charged me a fee. I paid. I moved by the end of the month to a smaller place across town. I packed the few things she'd brought, the mug, the sticky note with the first message, the empty hanger, into a bag and threw it away at a gas station. It felt stupid and mean and necessary. The first night in the new place was quiet. No knocks, no hallway light. I slept hard for the first time in weeks. The second night, at 2:17 a.m., 1 knock on my bedroom wall. Not the door, the wall. Then at 3:02 a.m., another knock, lower, like from the floor. I told myself, pipes. I put a pillow over my head. My phone discovered a Bluetooth device at 3:10 a.m. S's AirPods. I hit forget device. They disappeared. The next night, the device name returned, Same spelling, same apostrophe, same capital S. I went back to the old place once more during daylight to turn in the mailbox key. A maintenance guy was repainting. He said, "Somebody moved you in fast." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "We cleared out that second bedroom last week. No furniture, but when I opened the closet, there was a rug folded on the shelf, dust line under it like it had been on the floor a long time." He shrugged. We tossed it. That night at my new apartment, I woke up with that deep awareness you get when someone else is in the room. The air felt cooler on my face. A phone screen glowed dim blue, the reflection of mine, even though mine was dark. In the mirror on the closet door, I saw a figure sitting on the end of my bed, turned sideways, elbows on knees, face in hands. When I looked directly, the bed was empty. The mirror still showed the weight in the mattress like a person had just stood up. I made tea at 3:08 a.m. because doing something felt better than lying down. I set the mug on the counter. Steam lifted and thinned. A second mug ring formed an inch to the left of mine on the dry counter. I watched it appear. No mug, just the ring, like someone set a wet cup down beside me and moved it away. My phone vibrated with a new text from an unknown number. No words, just my own address pinned. A minute later, the message, "On my way," sent from my phone to the same number, even though I hadn't typed anything. When I opened my messages, the thread title said, "Sarah," but like before, only my bubbles showed. Her replies were timestamps and blank space. I got a new number. I changed locks again. I keep the TV on at night now, low volume, news reruns. Sometimes at 2:17 a.m., the volume drops by 1 point on its own. Sometimes at 3:02 a.m., there's a single knock on the wall behind my bed. And when I pass campus at dusk, I see a girl with a tote bag and a soft sweatshirt step up to a building that doesn't list night hours. She tries the door, knocks once, and waits like she has a key. If you ask me whether she was a person or a gap where a person should be, I don't know. I know she lived with me. I know she left without leaving. And I know that some friendships end by drifting apart, and some end by never having started, and some are the kind that follow you home. Every night, I set one mug on the rack upside down. Every morning, there are 2 damp circles on the counter. If you've made it this far, maybe you've noticed it too, how some places, some people, and some nights never really end when the story does. They linger, in echoes, in shadows, in the quiet moments right before sleep, just waiting for you to listen again. So until the next night, keep your lights low, and don't open the door if you hear a knock after 12 a.m.